one day. What? Come on, I'm not doing anything to you. Just tucking your little toes on the bandolier. That's all. Oh, yeah. Your mama's baby is comfortable.
Hey, Steve Scoglin, welcome to the stream, man. Is the audio coming in all right? Hey, Valley Fish, welcome to the stream. Hey, Corona Ken, welcome to the stream. Basically, I'm kind of wanted to talk a little bit about getting ready to go to aquatic experience. Yes, I am psyched. Welcome Cobweb Cavern, welcome Sasquatch Aquatics. Hey Sergeant Tank, thanks for dropping by. Hey Valez, welcome to the stream. How's everybody doing on this Saturday afternoon, evening, as the case may be for you? Looking forward to meeting you in Chicago, Jeremy. Welcome to the stream, Turbo Fish. Yes, I'm going. And my wife and I are both going, and we'll be there all 3 days. We should get there early in the morning on Friday, and we'll probably leave early enough Sunday afternoon to get home. It's about a six and a half hour drive from here to Chicago, but I'm really looking forward to it. Turbo Fish says, have to tell you thanks for everything you've done to help us learn, man. Yes, Jeremy, you just said stoked. Welcome to the 80s, man. Turbo, I've just had a lot of experience. It's not that I'm an expert. It's not that I'm someone special of any sort. I've just had a lot of experience, so I'm just trying to help out, basically. John Williams, welcome to the stream. We'll miss you there if you're not in Chicago. Listen, people, I understand geographically, if you're in Europe or someplace like that, making it to something like aquatic experience is going to be tough. It's a lot of money. My wife and I have had to save and scrimp to have enough for us to go do it. It's there's a lot of reasons why people can't go, and I don't want to be so outwardly excited about it that I make people feel bad because they're not going. But I would just tell you all to find some way to connect with other fish keepers in an event like that, or with club meetings or something like that, because basically, other than the science that you're going to learn and the studying that you will do and the keeping your brain active and the excitements and disappointments of fish keeping, that's what the hobby is other people. So connecting with other people in club settings, in auction settings, even in a fish store setting is one of the big pluses to the fish keeping hobby. So going to something like Aquatic Experience or Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza or the annual cichlid show, and gosh, the name's escaping me right now. Any of those big things is it's a great place to meet people. It's a great place to see new things in the hobby. It's a great place to listen to speakers who are, really important in the hobby. That's what I'm looking forward to as much as possible with Chicago, is the speakers that I'm going up there to listen to. I'm massively looking forward to getting to meet everybody and getting to rub shoulders with people in the hobby. But mainly what I want to go for, it is just a who's who list on who's speaking. And I would advise everyone to check out as many people in the hobby as possible that are speakers and give talks at shows or club meetings or something like that. I'm going to try, Ruru says get lots of pictures. I'm going to try to give you guys as an immersive an experience as possible. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do live broadcasts from the show. I've been kicking around trying to figure out how to try to do it, and so far I haven't really come up with anything. Here, honey. Let me have him for just a second.
Oh, all right.
I thought I'd give you guys a chance to meet Mr. Smokey. His paw is getting better. He had a pretty bad abscess, but this is our Smokey cat. And he's purring loudly for you. He's a piece of work. We are going to kennel him for the 4 days that we're going to be, or three days that we're going to be up there. He's right at the end of his 2-week antibiotic shot that he got, so he needs to be at the vet.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
He needs to be at the vet during the time we're going to be gone. So I just, our dogs have done really well with him, but I'm just not sure I trust him for 3 days all alone with nobody to stop him from doing whatever they're doing. We've got help coming in to check on the dogs and walk them and feed them and water them, but I just don't trust them yet. It's only been, a little less than 2 weeks that he's been here, and he is a kitten and wants to run and play, and they are dogs, and they do want to chase and prey. So I think we're going to be better off and safer and have more peace of mind putting him in the kennel for 3 days. Plus, he'll get his treatments on time instead of waiting. An infected abscess is pretty dangerous for cats because if they lick it, they will get bacteria in the wound. They will get bacteria from their mouth in the wound and reinfect it again. So he really needs to be Johnny on the spot. Plus, he'll start getting his injections too for all the cat diseases that there are. So I don't really have an axe to grind today. I mainly wanted to talk about prep for being gone for a week, essentially. Thanks for stopping by, Steve. Anytime you're going to go on vacation, we all go through this where we think, well, I'll get somebody to come in and feed my fish for me. I don't want my fish going a day without eating. They'll starve to death. The truth is, if you've got anything other than a straight bare tank, and even if you've just got a bare tank, there's plenty of stuff in tanks that have been mature, going for a long time, algae, the creatures that live on the algae, wood. There's a lot of things for fish in a tank to graze on, and they can easily go a week without being fed. So you're better off really to not try to get someone else to feed your fish. Now, if you were going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, something like that, then yeah, you probably better hire a pet sitter that knows how to feed fish and how to take care of tanks. You know, in case something catastrophic happens, power goes out, lights and filters don't come back on, then you've got, you know, peace of mind knowing that someone's going to be there to take care of those issues. But really, the honest truth is, just do a good water change. Yeah, Ruru says auto feeder, and yeah, those are possible too. But I've always had so much trouble with auto feeders that I've never really used them. So I'm gonna not have a lot of information about auto feeders to give you because I just don't trust them. And Ruru says nice endlers. These are Lucas Brett's Tiger endlers, and I got them through Jimmy when Jimmy moved out west. You know, he had to sell off his tanks and his fish, and I got the this 13-gallon rimless and the endlers and the shrimp that are in the tank from Jimmy. And I didn't pay him near enough money, but he wouldn't take any more. I gave him more than he asked me for, and he wouldn't take more than that. So I guess we came to a understanding about the money. This is not long after the tank was set up that this footage is. The guppy grass has completely taken over. The tank is just jam-packed with guppy grass now, and we weren't getting very good survival rates on buried shrimplets because the endlers would prey on them, because endlers will eat everything. But it's so full of guppy grass now that the shrimp are easily able to keep their shrimplets alive, and the baby endlers are surviving at a higher rate too. And Ruru says fish going to a good home more important than money. I think there was some of that. Now, as to how good of a home I've provided them, of the 15 Goiter Rivers rainbows and the 2 PreAE rainbows and a couple of bronze rainbows and the turquoise rainbow that we got, we've lost them down to, I think my count was 7 Goiter Rivers and 1 bronze is all that's left from that. But it isn't because I didn't try. I've given those rainbows every kind of medicated treatment that I can think of and done everything I could to try to, knock on wood, they're doing better now after finally being treated with levamisole. Welcome to the stream, Jordan Leroy. John Williams is asking me, would guppy grass work on a living wall like Java or other types of moss?
No.
Why you say no?
Well, it depends on how you would irrigate it. If you have continuously running water,
He means
all
in a
over
tank.
Oh, in a tank.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It would work if you got like a piece of egg crate that was the size of the end of your tank, and you set it up and you pushed it in and out of the egg crate enough to cause it to stay put. It would work in the sense that it would grow, but what you would end up with would be a ball of guppy grass. Like Ruru 2 is saying, that it spreads out. It would be a ball of guppy grass that would eventually take over your whole tank. So if you were willing to trim it constantly, then yeah, you could probably do it. Hey Angelo's Fish Tanks, welcome to the stream. And if I haven't said this before, I highly recommend that everybody that's new to the stream or people that have been with me since the get-go, check each other out, look at other people's pages, sub if you've got time to devote to another viewing. Part of my problem is that there's so much to do in a day that I'm reaching the tipping point now where I can only keep up with so many channels and so much stuff, and I'm a mod in a lot of channels, and I have to go there and do that, and I feel like being a mod is a responsibility that I need to fulfill. So I try to keep up with those things, but John Williams says, or gel super glue to attach it to the black PVC egg crate. Yeah, but you don't really need to glue guppy grass. You could just pull it in and out. You wouldn't have any trouble with that. Just once it had two or three pulls in and out, just start at the bottom and pull it through one and push it through another, and then pull it a little bit and stick it through one more, and it's not going to go anywhere. But guppy grass is not compact growing. It will literally spread out until it takes over the whole tank. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. I don't think you'd have any trouble keeping guppy grass attached to anything just because of how much it grows, how fast it grows. Jordan Leroy says, just moved 4 of my tanks onto one big Sarah 550R that came today. Got a mess of airline running around my room, but happy to condense down to one pump so I can easily run more tanks if need be. I'm guessing the Sarah 550R is a piston air pump. I don't recognize that. I've never bought large piston air pumps because I've always just run them. I've never had a dedicated fish room that was just straight fish tanks only that I could run something like that off of. I've always had tanks scattered out all over the house. I'm jealous that you got one, and I'll be happy for you that it works so well. So let's talk a little bit about what to do if you're going to go on a vacation and your tanks are going to be essentially left alone for a great deal of time. Oh, he says it's the Hobbyist 4 outlet, not a big blower. That's still a pretty big air pump, though. I recommend that you do at least a 50% water change in the tank. Unless it's like a shrimp invertebrate tank or something like that, and then I'm not sure 50% is really needed. But I recommend that you do a deep water change and a deep vacuum of your substrate, so that, or at least a part of your substrate, so that there's not going to be any kind of unexpected buildup, and that you won't end up with, an issue occurring because of something rotting in your substrate or something like that. So, check for dead fish, do your normal maintenance type situation where you would, you don't really need to change your canister filter, clean your canister filters or anything like that, unless of course it's that time for you to do it. But you can probably get away with turning off your lights for several days and having your tanks go dark for several days. Usually there's enough ambient light from windows that will allow enough light in to let the fish feel like that they're, on especially having 3 especially stormy days where the sun doesn't even peek out all day long. You know, that kind of situation. That's my plan, is to leave the lights off and to do deep cleaning and then not worry about them starving to death, because there's enough stuff in the tank for them to eat off of. You know, if you had like a scud culture, you could throw some scuds in there and they would probably survive long enough to be food source for those days. You know, if our fish never have to work or chase for food, work for food like they do in the wild, they may not burn enough energy to warrant all the food that they're eating. So letting them chase live food that's hard to catch, that they have to work at, is a good thing for fish, because they get hungry enough where they want to do it. Jeremy says, someone say live. Let's just say camera plus 3D plus live. Yep, 3D. That's something I've not gotten around to yet, Jeremy. Jeremy, are you going to be doing live broadcast from AE? I've been trying to figure out how to do one with my phone, and my phone camera is so terrible. It's almost like it's not even worth trying. My wife's got a better camera on her phone. John is saying, well, Dwayne, if you need to get rid of some of that guppy grass, I'll give it a try. Yeah, let me get back to you on that after AE, and we'll try to hook something up, man. Doesn't Corey have that 360 degree camera? I think Jim has one. I'm not sure if Corey does or not. Maybe he does too, but I think Jim had one. Cobweb Cavern says, I can't book it just now as I have no idea if work will be okay. That's the busiest time of the year for banks. Tax time of year. Yeah, that's a busy time for first day of the new financial year is always a big time. Oh, last week I forgot to do my random tip. I did give you guys a tip last week, but I forgot to do my random tip. I'm kind of pushing 500 ways to be a better freshwater fish keeper. Not that it means anything to me in the sense of monetary reward, but it means something to me in the sense of trying to get people to understand how effective and useful books can be. Because even though stuff that's on the web you can always go back and look at, even if it's something you've read, you may not be able to find it anymore if it's something you've read. And every time you learn something, every time you read something, depending on your level of experience and your ability, what you learn from that book may not be the full ability that book has to offer you. And so if you've got a book laying around that you can pick up and read at your leisure, 2 years later, if you pick that book up, you may read it with a wholly different understanding of what that book is trying to teach you. So I think that books have a value that you don't really find on the internet or on videos. They are continually there. Now, they're also continually in the same time frame that they were written in, but sometimes that's also useful as a picture of where things were at that point in time. So this is 500 Ways to be a Better Freshwater Fish Keeper. And it's essentially a book full of tips, hints and tips from a team of experts. And so it's a Firefly book, and they've essentially gathered together a group of experts and let them give out tips. And so I'm just trying to so under the better aquascaping category, tip 222, simulate the effect of sunlight overhead. To recreate the appearance of sunlight through patches of overhead vegetation, use some carefully positioned spotlights to focus light onto specific areas of the tank. You can use this method to highlight features such as a piece of wood or a specimen plant. Just be careful if you have a small tank, as spotlights can get very hot and easily overheat smaller tanks. So basically what that tip is giving us is a method to recreate what our fish will sometimes experience in the wild. Now, a lot of fish live in places where there is a lot of vegetation in the water. Hey Laura, welcome to the stream. A lot of fish live in places where there is a lot of vegetation underwater. But most fish that live in deep lakes or that live in river situations, most fish have very few plants in the water with them. You know, there may be some clinging to higher rocks and some along the banks of the river that are underwater that fish use as cover. But most of the time, what plants are to fish, they overhang the banks of the fish. And as Ruru is saying, the fish will run in and out of those shadows to avoid predators. They will hunt in those areas because they know they're safe to hunt, and many smaller things also live there. Angelo's Fish Tanks, gotta run. Have a great evening, everyone, and thanks for the stream. You're more than welcome. Thank you for spending some of your time with me, Angelo. I appreciate everybody's interest and that they're spending their time that they can do anything with me. I try to keep that in mind all the time. Jordan Leroy says, gotta go, catch you later. Have a good day, Jordan Leroy. So that little plant tip, there's a lot involved with that little plant tip. In a sense, what you are doing is recreating what exists in nature, that plants will overhang the riverbank or the lake shore, where they're growing in a profusion above the water line and hanging out. And the sunlight will hit that plant and create dappled sunlight underneath it, and certain depths of shadows underneath it. And fish, that's natural for fish. That makes them feel safer. It makes them feel more at home. It makes them feel like they've got a safe place to run to when they need to get away from a predator. Because if there's any live plants on the shoreline underneath those overhanging plants, they'll use both sets of plants to hide in. And I think that it's aesthetically, and obviously that section of the book was partly about aesthetics, because it was talking about potentially spotlighting a certain plant or some piece of decoration that's in the tank. Aesthetically, it creates a place where your fish can swim from shadow into light, and sometimes that will always show off your fish in a much their coloration will pop a lot more if they're coming out of shadows into full light, and it's just a good little tip. I'm picking these tips completely at random. I'm just opening the book and putting my finger down. So we're going to get a varied group of tips out of that book. Plus, I'm sure they don't want me to sit here and read all 500 tips to you guys online. They probably come hunt me up and sue me if I did that. But I just think that a book like that, and there's thousands of books like that out there. I've got 4 or 5 that are basically all the same format. There's a little bit of written text where they talk about something, and then there's a great many post-it note tips all over the inside of the book where they just keep throwing tips at you that have to do with the section that they're talking about. That's a pretty common format in a lot of fish keeping books, and some of those tips will mean more to you later than they mean to you now. Some of those tips later on you will realize touch on other subjects, touch on breeding, touch on fish comfort, touch on all kinds of things that when you first read through it you didn't really understand. And I think that that's a highly overlooked and very valuable and pertinent thing about reading books about fish keeping, is that your experience with fish keeping continually changes, and so the information that you glean out of written material will continually change as well, because your skill level will rise and your ability to absorb the information in the book and to ascertain what's really important about that information will change as well. All right, guys, so we've covered pre-aquatic experience. I've done my tip. We can open it up to just straight questions if you guys have a topic you want to talk about. If not, I'll continue gloating gleefully about being personally at the aquatic experience in Chicago. It's probably going to be pretty cold. I've been watching the weather. The temps are probably going to be right around freezing at night and probably in the 50s during the day. And those of you that know Chicago know that it's called the Windy City. And there's a reason why they call Chicago the Windy City. The wind is always blowing 15, 20 miles an hour. And so a 50-degree temperature day with a 20-mile-an-hour wind, you need to bring a jacket. In fact, you might even need a coat if your blood is thinned out. Ruru, I've been to Chicago several times. Chicago is a big northern city. Indianapolis is the same way. In fact, most big northern cities that go through a heavy winter are all about the same to me in the sense of how they feel and how they look. Chicago's a little bigger. Chicago is a little more violent in some ways. And yet the draw for places like Chicago is there's stuff that you can go and do there that you can't do anywhere else in the world. And aquatic experience is just symptomatic of that condition. There's just the Shed Aquarium is worth a visit no matter what. I would highly recommend the Shed to anyone that hasn't been there. It is a very old aquarium. It was built, gosh, I don't have my Shed book handy, but I think it was built in the 20s. Hey, D Bachelor, welcome to the stream. The Shed Aquarium is part of the history of fish keeping in the United States in many ways. There have been many fish bred there that weren't bred anywhere else. Many of the people that have worked there have gone on to huge careers in the hobby, in fishery science, in a lot of different places. It's just a font of information and history and fish keeping. And while it is an old aquarium and it's laid out like old aquariums were, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the new aquarium. Shed Aquarium opened in 1930. Yeah. Anyway, I think the shed is highly worth a visit. And if you are going to carve out enough time to visit the Shed Aquarium, the museum that is just to your left, if you're standing at the Shed Aquarium door and looking outward, just to your left is a national, what is it?
The Field Museum.
The Field Museum. I can't imagine that you would go to the Shed Aquarium and not spend at least half a day in the Field Museum, because it is incredible. And I would highly recommend those things. John is telling me that I'm welcome in Indy anytime. John, I lived for
2 years.
It was more than 2 years.
Maybe 2.5.
95 to, when did we move down here? 98?
98, yeah.
I lived in Indy for 3 years. I never really liked it. I met I moved there to be with my wife. I loved that part of it. I loved certain things that I could do in Indy. There's several excellent museums in Indy. There are great concert venues in Indy, great record stores. There's some very good fish stores in the area. But it just never felt like home to me. And I'm mostly raised and lived in the South. And the idea that snow would come and 3 months later it was still there, it just really, really ate at me. I despised the winters there. And so I tried to when my wife and I got married, I said, look, we got to move south. And New Albany was as far south as I could get her. It wasn't quite out of the state, but the difference between the weather here in New Albany and the weather in Indianapolis is just incredible. It still gets cold here, it still snows here, but it's not like Indy. It's not like you're in a deep freeze for 4 months or 5 months. I'm not a winter person. I'd rather be too warm than too cold. So, yeah, I'm happy where I am. But Corona Ken says, same for me in Chicago. 5 coldest years ever. Yeah. Well, John, I'm not trying to denigrate Indy. I am a hardcore Pacers and a slightly less hardcore Colts fan, and that came from living in Indianapolis and getting to know both of those teams. And Ruru says he hates heat and that he'll stay north, and that's a valid personal opinion, Ruru. I'm not about to tell anybody else how they need to live. I know how I feel about that enough to avoid that from somebody else.
Well, I lived there for 20 years and I still like it.
Did you hear my wife? Say it again, honey.
I lived in Indy for 20 years and I still like it and recommend it as a tourist destination.
My wife lived there a very, very long time and she likes it. I liked that she was there. That was important to me. And John says all the fish stores are gone except for the Reef on Keystone Avenue.
Is that right?
Well, I know there's some up in Carmel still in there. And there were a couple in South Indy that were pretty decent fish stores. They weren't great fish stores, but I managed to satiate my desire. I moved up there from Texas in '95. I managed to satiate my desire to keep snakeheads and fish that I couldn't keep, piranha, fish that I couldn't keep in Texas because they were illegal there. So I got to keep quite a few of those fish. Lecter Records, welcome to the stream. He says, where would you look for definitive info on proper temperature for iridescent sharks, Panagaceus? The temps I have found seem quite cold considering they come from the Thailand area. Lecter, I applaud you for recognizing where they come from, but I would tell you, while the temperatures are very warm where they come from, that the places that they are found are usually very deep and very wide, large rivers. And while they may be from upstream, before the river gets really, really big and muddy, that the water is pretty cold. Now, it's not really cold, so your temperatures will probably be slightly cooler than you would think, but still in the warm range. I would think those fish have to be kept in the upper 70s at least, and you know, maybe mid 70s. I don't know. It's been so long since I kept iridescent sharks, and I kept tiny Panagaceus cats. There are some giant Panagaceus cats. John says you're the smart one in the family.
Oh, that's not fair.
I would have to agree with that, John. She's much smarter than I am. I'm a little more street smart than she is, but that just comes from experience. Kevin Hyatt, welcome to the stream. Susan, welcome to the stream. If people haven't caught Susan's tuber challenge video, I would recommend that they do that. She did a really good job. It's kind of a tough one to do. And Susan, I did the tuber challenge about 4 or 5 months ago. That somebody got me in it. Cobweb Caverns says, I don't think that Chicago or Indy would be choices for anyone visiting on holiday from the UK, would they? I would tend to differ with that. They're places, both of them are places that I don't really want to live anymore. But I would say that you would find a great deal of stuff to keep a tourist happy in either location, you know, as long as it wasn't going to be for a month or something. By the end of the month, Chicago has some of the best eateries in the world. Every time I go to Chicago, I want to go eat at the Weber Grill, and I want to get a deep dish pizza. There's some excellent Mexican food places. Chinese food. There's a lot of great food in Chicago, and Indy also has a great deal of excellent food to offer. So I would say that both of those places would be wonderful to visit if you were a tourist from UK. Now, you wouldn't be, you know, it's not going to be sun and turf like if you went to LA or Florida or someplace like that. You're obviously going to be in the Midwest, although there is the lake in Chicago, and I'm sure that there would be plenty of fun things to do on the lake. But and Indy has a lot of water around it as well. But yeah, if you were going to come in the you know, say fall, summer to fall, I'd say Indy or Chicago would both be great places to go spend a week as a tourist, to sample the food, to meet people, to go do amazing things like catch pro games. You could catch basketball or baseball or football. you could visit all the museums. You could spend $1 million if you had it and wanted to spend it in the stores because they are legion. So yeah, I'd say they both be great places to visit. Now, of course, I'd probably recommend California for the weather and the ocean and all that kind of stuff. But I would definitely say that you would not have trouble staying busy for a week and see stuff that would stay with you for a lifetime in either of those locations. And I'm sure that's true for any major city in the United States. They all have their, great things to offer, their hidden gems, their architecture, their, cottage neighborhoods to check out. There's stuff to do anywhere you go if you just open your mind and look. I've been to Vegas Cobweb Caverns. Vegas is going to be great for shows. Vegas is going to be great for gambling. If you go to Tahoe, there's Lake Tahoe, which is beautiful beyond compare. But I'm not sure that Vegas has the museums or the eateries. I guess maybe you could probably get as much food as you needed.
They do have the eateries there.
And John is saying, but Dwayne, the White River isn't exactly an attraction. Yeah. Indy's going to be a lot less on the water, but there are a couple of lakes around.
Well, Indy does have that downtown water canoe travel, kind of like they do in
yeah,
Austin.
and like my wife is saying, Indy does have a downtown canal that is basically usable as water ferry, and that's one of the big draws of Austin, Texas, is that they also have one of those canals. Coronakin says, back on topic for a moment. I have not had good experiences with reasonably priced auto feeders. One did not feed, the other dumped all the feed in a day or two. Yeah, your experience is very similar to mine, Ken. Now, it's been a long time since I tried to buy an auto feeder, just because my experience with them back in the day was so piss poor that I didn't ever want to try it again. All it takes is one full dump of all the food in an auto feeder and you trying to get it back out of there again. And yeah, glass boxes, Joel and Kevin Hyatt both have good points. Joel says, yeah, I've had mixed experiences on auto feeders, and supposedly the Eheim ones are pretty good. And the Eheim feeders are expensive, though. You've got to understand that I've always done my fish hobby with a limited amount of income that I could spend. I mean, I think everybody has a limited amount of income. And if you're asking me whether I'd rather have a $40 auto feeder or a $40 fish that I've been dying to get a hold of, I'm going to go buy the fish every time if I have tank room for it. And Kevin raises an even better point. The best part of fish keeping is feeding time. And he's exactly right. That's the time when you get the best shot at catching your fish to really give them a good look over and see if, they're showing any signs of disease, if they're showing signs of being carrying eggs. It's all right, John. We're closing in on the end of the hour, so off topic is not a problem for me. But yeah, this is a fish keeping channel, so I'm not going to start talking about records in a live stream on my fish keeping channel. I know I've probably pissed people off doing those vinyl community videos that I've done, but the vinyl community is so vibrant on YouTube. They've just goaded me into doing it, and I don't want to start a whole nother channel just to put out, a couple of vinyl community videos. So thank you guys for bearing with me while I've offended you by putting out vinyl community stuff. So, yeah, my personal experience, Corona Ken, is that I don't like auto feeders. Now that comes from a long time ago, having bad experiences with them not working at all like they were supposed to, or doing bad, dumping everything or not dumping anything, and so I'm probably not the best person. I know Corey has done several videos on auto feeders, that experience he's had with them, and I know he uses a lot of them. Once your fish keeping hobby gets far enough out of control that you have in the 50s and hundreds of tanks, time is going to become a real issue if you have any kind of thing to do in your life other than just take care of your tanks. I don't know how Lucas manages it. I don't know how he has any hair left. I would have pulled all mine out by now.
What is it, Kitty? Come on.
Valles Albo gives us the information that he's only ever used Eheim auto feeders and never had an issue, up to 8 feedings a day. See, that's great anecdotal information, Valles, and anyone that is looking for a feeder. Eheim is just a name that I associate with well done. I also associate it with too expensive, but I've always known that Eheim products were well built. They were built to last longer than their warranty, and that they were built with German aquarists are tough. They know their science, they know their hobby, they know all about it, and they know it in spades. And they are deeply versed in stuff. And if you're going to come out with a piece of crap product and try to sell it to the German fish keeping hobby, good luck, because it's going to crash and burn overnight. So Eheim has always excelled in making their products excellent. So yes, I would trust an Eheim auto feeder, but getting me to spend the money to buy an Eheim auto feeder, that's something that's just probably not going to happen. Corona Ken says, Kevin currently have 3 tanks of Dalmatian sailfin mollies and 2 tanks of pineapple swordtails.
Wow, sounds cool.
Yeah, I especially love those pineapple swordtails. I've never been much of a molly or guppy or swordfin keeper. I guess I've just never really been much of a live bearer keeper in general. I've had them, I've kept them, and pineapple swordtails are really pretty amazing little fish. There are some varieties of the sailfin mollies that I like too. John Williams says, don't feel the need to respond. No problem, Dwayne. The Tubular Bells stuff was awesome. I love that album. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it too. I thought, Corona Ken, I thought you were going to start keeping some shrimp, weren't you? Weren't you going to? Don't I remember you talking about adding shrimp to those tanks? I may be wrong there.
I got you. What?
Come on, little purr bucket. Come on, little purr bucket. You get up there and show all the people in YouTube land what a cute kitty you are. What a cute kitty you are. Corona Ken says must have been some other good-looking guy. Okay, sorry, man. I guess I'm misremembering then. Ooh. 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 This one's really getting into the play mode. Hey, that's my beard. You can't tear my beard off. You can't bite my beard. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're getting here at the top of the hour. I'll have my new lap pet wave bye to you. I look forward to seeing any and all of you at the Aquatic Experience. I'm going to try to film as much as I can while I'm there. I will try to live stream. I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe I'll get in on somebody else's live stream. But I look forward to seeing you all there. And you guys have a good rest of your... Yes, I just want to go play with my kitty, Kevin. Sorry, man. You guys have a good rest of your Saturday. And I will try my best to produce some kind of content on Saturday, but it may be Monday by the time, or maybe late Sunday evening, and it may be Monday morning before I start putting out content. You know, if God willing and the creek don't rise, I should have tons of content. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah.